you can. Otherwise,
we got 3 for the rest of the show.
It's time for 5, 3, 4 on the Grom.
Time now for 5 questions. Well, actually 3, but 5 sounds like more than 4. Question number 1. Programming predicament.
Yes, the Timberwolves are in Orlando tonight at 6 p.m. on FanDuel Sports Network. You can hear that game on the Wolves channel on the iHeartRadio app. The new and improved iHeartRadio app, by the way. You can just set the Wolves channel as one of your presets. So you can just click right on that. The Wild.
You know what's interesting?
Yeah.
The new and improved iHeartRadio app came around at the same time the new and improved Common Man program.
Really?
Yeah, well, it's the new and improved Common Man program. You know that.
The Wild host the Colorado Avalanche at 7 p.m. on FanDuel Sports Network. Plus, of course, you can hear that game right here on the Fan or listen to it on the Wild channel on the iHeartRadio app. Notre Dame takes on Penn State at 6:30 p.m. in the College Football Playoff National Semifinals. That's on ESPN and ESPN2. And you have the Sony Open coverage, which begins at 6 p.m. tonight on Golf Channel. Common, what are you going to do about tonight's
Programming predicament?
Only got one answer for you, Tenneby.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip.
It's the new and improved Common Man program. I've moved on from the Rockford Files. Wait, darn it, I didn't have page 2 up. I say I've moved on from the Rockford Files.
Oh my gosh.
Going back to reruns from Gilligan's Island. I think I'll take Gigans. That's what Deuce calls it. I'll do Gigans, Tenneby.
Gigans?
Yeah, Gigans. I don't know why he calls it that. Hey, kids talk. Instead of Gilligan's Island, we just call it Gigans Island.
A great show.
Yeah, it's a really good show.
They don't write them like that anymore.
No, but they don't write them like that anymore. That was so out of tune and out of key. I need auto tune. Yeah, I'll watch Gilligan's Island. But Penn State is playing Notre Dame. I think that could be fun. It'll be a good game. I might watch all of that.
Question number 2.
Here we go.
It's time now for a look at the ladies.
Oh, yes, it's ladies' night, and the feeling's right.
Think it ain't.
It's ladies' night.
Oh, what a night.
Oh, what a night.
Common, which women's headline in the Star Tribune piques your interest the most? A, with top freshman sideline, Battle steps up to lead Gophers past Rutgers. B, Gophers basketball commit Tori Orline sets state record for assists in a game. Or C, Heisey scores game-winning goal as Frost defeat Fleet 2-1 in overtime.
Is Raquel Welch in 3D part of that Star Tribune stories today? The first one, I think. What was that first one?
The Gophers women winning. Battle steps up to lead Gophers past Rutgers. Seems like that club's doing all right.
Aren't they like 15-1? Or do I have the wrong team? I think they've only lost one game. I think they win more than they lose by a long shot. So that's nice. I did look at the assist thing, and I don't want to take anything away from the young lady, but they won the game like 90-30. So I got to think the competition. Again, that's not her fault, and she did make the assist, and she's a terrific.
Sounds like was she playing the entire game too?
Yeah. She's a terrific player, but wasn't that the final score in that game? It was like 80 or 90.
I was looking at the Gophers women. Yes, you're right. They've lost one game. That was to Nebraska.
So they're, I believe, 15-1 then, right? Or do I have been playing way too many games? Probably too many games at this point.
I think it might be more than that.
Maybe it is. You look for that while I
they're
look.
16-1 after last night's win.
Okay, 16-1. So on the other story in question, where's the final score of the game?
113-33. She set a state record with 21 assists.
It's still the record. Please, I'm not trying to take anything away from the accomplishment. It's a lot.
She had a quadruple double. 30 points, 21 assists, 12 rebounds, 12 steals.
When you score 113 and the other team only scores 33, you're going to see that. But she's apparently as good as any player we've seen in a while come out of Minnesota. So, but I still like the 15-1 for the for the Gopher women's basketball team. I think that's gaudy.
16-1.
Yeah, 16-1. That's gaudy. I like that. I think I can. You know what, Tennessee? I can get behind this club. I really can. They might be my team.
Question number 3. And now it's time to go in the trenches.
USA Today had a column titled, "Who will make the 2026 NFL playoffs? 5 non-playoff teams who could make it next year."
Hey.
At number 5, they have the Seattle Seahawks. Number 4, Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
Number 3, Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Cincinnati Bengals at number 2, and the San Francisco 49ers at number 1. Common, do you agree that those are the top 5 in that order that are most likely to make the 2026 NFL playoffs?
You could probably throw all those names in a hat on pieces of paper, shake them around a little bit and draw names, and the order wouldn't matter much. Bengals really got on a roll late, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, they got off to a very slow
Their
start.
defense was just bad all year.
Yeah. They got on a roll late, and they almost squeaked their way in. And because of Burrow, I feel more confident in. I would put Cincinnati at number 1. You know, maybe San Francisco, just the injury bug, and sometimes it's just not your year. I mean, they've had such a terrific run in the last 4 or 5 years with a couple of big game appearances and this, that, and that. So I would say those are 1 and 2, and the other teams are certainly capable of it, yeah.
Question number 3. And now it's time to go in the trenches.
Love trench talk.
Could we do another USA Today ranking story?
Yes, I love rankings.
Yeah, the USA Today ranked the NFL's 6 open head coaching jobs. They consider the most attractive job to be the New England Patriots. They have the Chicago Bears at number 2.
Yeah, I'd have them at 1.
Jacksonville Jaguars at 3. Or is it Jaguars?
Jaguars.
Or Jaguars? They have the New York Jets at number 4, New Orleans Saints at number 5, and Las Vegas Raiders at number 6. Common, do you agree with those rankings?
Why New England number 1, do you think? Did they have an
I
explanation
think
for
Drake May, despite their team's record, had a pretty good rookie season.
Yeah. I forgot they got the Drake May kid. I thought they were still on the what was his name? Sam Jones? Mick Jones?
They had Mac Jones.
Mac Jones. Maybe the Caleb Williams kid will be too complicated for him, because I thought I read somewhere, it was a Chicago area paper, one of the other websites that basically said he's really struggling with the pro game. But he does look to be immensely talented. That's why I would have thought Chicago would be the number 1 spot. Though, you mentioned the Jaguars. Mm-hmm. Do we still think the football Fabio's got a chance, the Trevor Lawrence kid, to be a great quarterback? Or do we think maybe there was a little too much hype there? Or
I think the performance of Sam Darnold this year would say we can't give up on someone at that stage.
Okay, right.
That being said, I would take my chances with Drake May or Caleb Williams at this point.
Yeah. I mean,
it's been, 5 years out of them now?
Yeah. I'm just told the Gopher women are 16-1 but aren't in the top 25. How is that possible? Why are we not getting any respect?
I was looking at their record. They haven't beaten a ranked team. And their only loss was in Nebraska, who was ranked 25th. But, they have won 4 consecutive Big Ten games: Penn State, Wisconsin, Illinois, Rutgers. And it looks like they got number 8 Maryland in 5 days. So that'll be the litmus test game.
We call that a litmus test, Tennessee. You're right. That's a litmus test. That's a barometer.
Looks like they got some tough ones coming up too. End of January, early February. They got number 4 USC, number 1 UCLA. So that'll be a tough 2 game stretch.
You know what I'll tell you? Who is that? UCLA, Maryland. Who else do we have?
And USC.
You know what I tell those schools? Overlook us.
In your mirror may be closer than they appear.
Overlook us. Take us lightly. Go ahead. At your own peril.
And that's it for today's edition of 5 Questions. Well, actually 3 questions, but 5 sounds like more than 4.
We will we'll take a pause. We love 5, 3, 4. Controversial Vikings news. Other side of the break. Common Man program on the Fan.
Want to chime in on what's happening with your favorite KFAN program?
Sure I do.
Make your voice heard on the Bradshaw Bright text line. Let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard message and data rates apply.
I guess it doesn't really apply to me. I don't need the Bradshaw Brian KFAN text line. I just need the Norman DC. I can't remember the name. I'll memorize it one of these days. So anyway, Tenneby, we just love... you just did some USA Today polls or rankings, whatever the case may be. How about this one I stumbled upon? This is going to raise some interesting issues and be very controversial. CBS Sports ranking the 14 coaching staffs in the 2025 NFL playoffs. And Viking fans are going to be bitter.
Yeah, I figured.
Because we think
we always get disrespected.
Well, because we think that KOC and B-Flow are the greatest coaches ever combined. We think they're the NFL coaching equivalent of Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello, Stiller and Mira, and Sacco and Vanzetti. 5 tiers, Tenneby. Tier number 5 is, are we sure they know what they're doing? Houston Texans with D'Amico Ryans, Bobby Slowick, and Kevin Burke, your head coach, OC and DC, respectively. Tier 4, we have some questions. At 13, Washington Commanders, Danny Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury, and Joe Witt, your HC, OC, and DC, respectively. Pittsburgh Steelers.
Really?
I think that might be a bit too low. Now, they have, as you mentioned, you brought it up yesterday, lost 4 in a row, albeit to good quality clubs, but still, if you want to be a good quality club and you're considered a good quality club, you should beat one of those big quality clubs once in a while. But I still think the entire body of work for Mike Tomlin, I don't know if I'd have him as the 12th best left in the playoffs. It's Tomlin, Art Smith, Daryl Austin again, OC, HC, OC, DC. These are all in that order. Head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. Tampa Bay with Todd Bowles, Liam Cohen, Larry Foote / Casey Rogers. I did not know that they had dual defensive coordinators in Tampa Bay. Does that happen a lot? I mean, we sort of have dual offensive coordinators here with KOC calling the shots, but we do have a offensive coordinator in Wes Phillips, right? Then you get to tier 3, good, but ... Denver Broncos, Sean Payton, Joe Lombardi, Vance Joseph. Philadelphia Eagles, Nick Sirianni, Kellen Moore, and Vic Fangio. Would you put them as the 9th best of the 14 teams left in the... It's 14 teams left, 14 teams left in the National Football League. They've had a lot of success, and again, you and I discuss this all the time. Is it the players that make a coaching staff better? Is it the coaching staff that makes the players better? I think it kind of goes hand in hand. But I've always felt like players can make a coach look a lot better than they are than a coach. They've been considered to have a really good roster. Yeah. Tier 2, straight up well-coached football teams. At number 8, your Green Bay Packers, Matty LaFleur, Adam Stenovich, and Jeff Halfley. Number 7, Buffalo Bills. With Sean McDermott, Joe Brady, and Bobby Babich. At 6, the LA Chargers, Jimmy Harbaugh, Greg Roman, and Jesse Minter. At number 5, you ready? Fooled ya. Los Angeles Rams, Sean McVay, Mike LaFleur, and Chris Shula. At number 4, the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, I thought you said we were going to be better.
Well,
I think number 4 is pretty good.
But in this town, Tennessee, most of your fans, they want to back up the Brinks truck to Brian Flores. Can't let him go. Everybody wants to make him the highest paid defensive coordinator in the history of the league, and everybody thinks KOC is the quarterback whisperer. From what I get on when I read message boards, booth at KFAN.com, the Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line, and all the other places, we're on the water cooler in the coffee shops and on the bar stools, everybody's really high on our coaching staff. We think we got
I'm very high on as well.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I think some people think we're the best. How can they act? We're 14-3. We had nothing going for us.
But they clearly don't have the equity that the ones that are ahead of them. So the fact that they're 5th, I think that's reasonable.
O'Connell, Phillips, and Flores. Then there's the elite 10 to beat. There's 3 teams left. You know who they are, right?
Well, Kansas City's one of them. Your Detroit staff's one of them.
And?
I'm assuming is it Baltimore?
Correct.
Yeah.
At number 3, Kansas City Chiefs.
What?
Andy Reid, Matt Nagy, Steve Spagnuolo. I don't.
I mean, they can't even hear what's being said about this because they have the Super Bowl rings in their ears.
Yeah, rings in their ears. I like that.
I'm stealing that from Patrick Waugh.
Oh.
It was a genius line he once had at a comeback. Did you ever hear that one?
No.
Or is it Patrick Roy? Is it Roy?
It's Roy.
Apparently Jeremy Roenick had like a move where he beat Waugh on a breakaway and made some sort of comment about, his jock is still up in the rafters or something like that. And so the reporter goes to Patrick Waugh, asks him about it, and Patrick goes, "What's that? I couldn't hear you. I have Stanley Cup rings stuck in my ears." It's genius. Because, Roenick has not won one.
Right. I love that.
Yes. Great comeback.
Number 2, your Baltimore Ravens. Johnny Harbaugh, Todd Monken, and Zach Orr. And according to CBSSports.com, the best coaching staff in pro football, or at least, remaining in the playoffs, which I would think would be the number 1 in the league. Danny Campbell, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn.
Oh my gosh. Above average.
You could argue they have the best coordinator out of all of them.
Says we know all about these 3 coaching staffs. You can take your pick between Reid, Harbaugh, and Campbell as the NFL's best coach, and very few people would tell you that you're wrong. These teams land in this order only because the Chiefs have the weakest individual link, Matt Nagy, the only coordinator among the 3 teams who does not call plays.
Well, he doesn't even call the plays.
No. And Orr is in his first year as defensive coordinator. Johnson and Glenn have been in place under Campbell for several years and become arguably the most and second most sought after coaches on the market when it comes to head coaching interviews. That's how good they are. And I made the case on Monday when we came, or on Tuesday when we came back. No, it was Monday because it was a Sunday night game. I've been waiting all week for Sunday night. Your coach of the year is Dan Campbell. I just think it is. Had Minnesota, I think you could come down to that last game. Had Minnesota won on the road and beat Dan Campbell, won the division, I would have given it to Kevin O'Connell. But Campbell, and here's the other thing. I think these coaches, they just have different approaches. Now, all of these coaches have different approaches. All these coaches have different approaches. I don't know. Again, we said this earlier when we were discussing coaching. None of us are in those locker rooms. We're not in the daily meetings. We're not on the sideline watching the games as they're being played. Campbell seems to be more like, I just feel like he's a guy that he delegates. Aaron Glenn is calling every offensive play. Defensive play, and every offensive play is being called by Ben Johnson. Is it Ben Johnson?
Yeah.
Is that right? I just think that's the case. I think Dan's more of the fire him up kind of guy where he's scratching his head all the time, and he's the one that sets this...
The culture,
this tempo.
The mindset.
Yeah, the mindset of the club. KOC seems to be more low-key. Now, he gets fired up in the locker room. I've seen the post-game locker room after victories with the Vikings. But it almost seems like it's more... almost like a business-like approach. Does that make sense, or am I way off the mark there? I'm not saying button-down shirt and tie kind of a thing, but it's just like they're good. Trust me, they're really good at what they do. He's a really good head coach. The Andy Reid thing, to me, how he's not number 1, because not only does he call and they were ranking the whole entire staff. Mm-hmm. Maybe if you were just going best head coach, you might come to a different conclusion.
But their defensive coordinator is pretty darn good, too, in Kansas City.
He is.
That's...
But what I mean is, if you were just saying who is the best head coach, you took out the coordinators, I would have to say it's Andy Reid.
Yes.
But because of the coordinators here, they think because Spagnuolo is good, but because the defensive coordinator or offensive didn't call the plays, maybe they're because Reid seems to be a guy to me that I think he probably not only sets the tone, but he also calls the plays.
He's an offensive genius.
Yeah, I don't know how you can go wrong with that, but that's where you have him ranked in the National Football League. according to CBSSports.com. Time now for Tenneby to tell us about that little old hockey team. You know, the blue line runs around our state, the whole thing. What do you got, Tenna?
Yeah, this is Wild Today, brought to you by Jim Beam, the official bourbon of the Minnesota Wild. The Wild host the Colorado Avalanche tonight at the XL Energy Center, but some big names not in the lineup for your Wild tonight. Obviously, no Kirill Kaprizov, no Jared Spurgeon, no Brock Faber, no Jonas Brodin, and no Marc-Andre Fleury. In fact, they don't even have a backup goalie right now that they can call up, so they might have an E-Bug goalie as their backup tonight. Defenseman David Juracek was recalled from Iowa. He will play tonight. He was the one that was acquired in that November trade with Columbus for a first-rounder and 3 other picks. Colorado, by the way, they had been on an 8-1-1 run before losing 3-1 at Chicago on Wednesday. Wild and Avalanche tonight, 7 p.m. puck drop at XL Energy Center. You can hear that game right here on the Fan. That was Wild Today, brought to you by Jim Beam, a crowd pleaser since 1795.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Join the Minnesota Vikings at Mystic Lake Casino and Hotel on Monday, January 13th for a Vikings watch party. Cheer on the Vikings as they face off against the Rams in a high-stakes NFC wildcard matchup.
Wild card.
Special appearances by Skullline, Victor, Vikings legends, and the Minnesota Vikings cheerleaders. Enjoy live entertainment, concessions, and a selection of Vikings merchandise available for purchase. Doors open at 5 p.m. Get your free tickets now at Vikings.com/playoffs.
And where is that again?
Mystic Lake Casino and Hotel.
That should be fun. They'll have that watch party probably in their big theater.
That'd be sweet.
I've seen many shows, and I would imagine that's where they would have it. Have a big screen up on that stage, or several big screens. I've watched many a concert there. It's a great venue. Once again, tend to be controversy dogs me wherever I go. People lashing out at the common man for what they consider to be an outrageous and uninformed take on who should be the coach of the year. Here's a first one, courtesy of the Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line. One head coach coached his team to expectations. One head coach coached his team well above expectations. Tell me again why the kneecap clown in Detroit deserves it over KOC. What's the kneecap clown's record against the Vikings this year?
2-0.
What's KOC's record against Detroit this year?
Whose record against Detroit? I'm sorry.
KOC.
0-2.
Case closed. You can't beat him. Sorry. I don't know what you're...
Well, and here's the thing with the expectations thing.
Yeah.
The expectations with Detroit included Aiden Hutchinson playing all season long, not having 13, 14 players on defense being hurt and grabbing guys off the street. So I get they were expected to be the division winner and they were expected to be a favorite in the NFC. They still had to handle a lot of adversity and still ended up with the number 1 seed down.
A defense that's playing with mostly second stringers and recently retired players.
Do you think
just beat your club with that? They came up with a game plan defensively that beat your offense. Don't give me the Darnold that overthrows he did, but your team can't even run the football. Pro Football Focus will tell you the 2 guys on the left side of the line for the Vikings had their worst graded games all year. You got beat by a better coaching staff and a better team. Sorry. Now the Vikings can turn that around. They can beat the Rams, and I'm fully confident they can beat Detroit. I'm surprised they did not beat Detroit in that game because of how decimated. That's what they call them. They call them the 3Ds, the decimated Detroit defense. Here's another one, Tenneby.
Well, just before you move on, I just want to say, if the Vikings defense had as many injuries as Detroit did this year, would they have been successful?
Not even close.
Probably not. And you know what? Every single person listening right now, like, well, what are you going to do? We had too many injuries. You can't overcome it.
That's
correct. Detroit overcame it.
That's exactly right. Here's another. Common, you're way off. The coach of the year is KOC because simply Vegas had us at 6 wins. We got to 14. Vegas had Detroit winning the division. Zach and Duluth. Let me ask Zach and Duluth and all the rest of you a question. Is Vegas the final word? So Vegas says Vegas said it was. Vegas doesn't always get it right. Sorry. Just because Vegas. So are we going to say, well, then Vegas is the final word on everything according to sports, just because they set lines to make money? I think most people thought the Vikings wouldn't play very well. And KOC's done an admirable job. He's done a great job. And if he wins it, and maybe he will, it don't make no never mind to me, because it doesn't affect me in any way, shape, or form. Doesn't whoever gets.
I think they're both the top two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. And again, it doesn't change my life in any way, shape, or form, whoever wins it. Same with who wins the game. People keep thinking that. I know I'll hear it. Detroit gets beat in their first game, like especially against Vikings. I'm going to get inundated with people trash talking. Go ahead. It falls on deaf ears. People find it hard to believe that you can actually not care as much as you do. Because there are many people out there that are still in that phase of their life. It comes and goes. I think and not for everybody, there's still some people that have been with a club, whatever the case may be, whether it's baseball, football, hockey, basketball, pickleball, whatever it is, that they follow that team forever, and they still live and die, and their emotions are affected. Their mood is affected by the wins and losses of their team. I told you, back when I was in the first home I lived in Woodbury, my family, we called the guy that lived across the street Wooo Vikes guy. He was a huge Vikings fan. We'd see him leave for every game. Him and his wife, they'd be wearing their purple. They went to every home game. They'd be wearing all their garish clothing. Vikings gear and go to the game. And when they would win, he'd be out in the yard. And every 10 or 15 minutes, I'd hear him just out of nowhere just go, "Woo, Vikes!" Because he was thinking about the game, right? So, and he was so excited and so pumped up. And I'm sure he's thinking, guys, I remember we went for the touchdown. Woo, Vikes! Woo, Vikes! And he would do that for like every 10, 12, 15 minutes for an hour or two. We call it Wooo Vikes.
That's bizarre.
And I admire him, man. Go for it. Love it. And that's what these folks here, I'm assuming, Zach and the other guy, Shane from Shakopee, who are regular listeners and text, and you're entitled to your own stupid opinion. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, but I'm assuming they're and maybe they don't care that much, but I just I think Dan Campbell, and if you'll remember when they hired Campbell, my first comment was, all he's missing is the pencil behind his ear. I thought he was going to be another Matt Patricia. Done a nice job with him. Speaking of coaches, Tenneby, did you see this story? Do you know who Mike Cronin is?
No.
Head coach, UCLA Bruins men's basketball team. Dateline Los Angeles. This from, what's today's, the 9th?
Yes.
This is from yesterday while the program was on the air. Here's what it says. Dateline Los Angeles. UCLA coach Mick Cronin ripped into his players following the 22nd ranked Bruins' third loss in 4 games, saying they don't give enough effort and lack toughness. UCLA, which won 10 of its first 11 and started 2-0 in the Big Ten, has dropped 2 straight following Tuesday night's 94-75 home loss to number 24 Michigan. The Bruins lost 66-58 at Nebraska Wednesday. Here's what Cronin said. I have to run onto the court to get the guys to play hard. It's crazy, and it's every day. I'm tired of it. I have the most energy of anybody in practice every day. I'm upset with everybody in that locker room, my assistant coaches and my players. I don't need to do anything else. I almost got 500 wins. I'm only 53. You'd think I'm coaching the Lakers. It's a joke. It's a joke. Yet I come in and have more passion and energy and pride than everybody. And that's the problem. That is the truth right now. Cronin went on to say his team is too soft to play hard enough and that it shows up at crucial times. He says, so what the truth of it has been, it's really hard to coach people that are delusional. The hungry dog gets the bone. We got guys who think they're better than they are. They're nice kids. They're completely delusional about who they are.
Wow.
I've never heard anything. I mean, that's going pretty hard at kids. And I had the UCLA-Nebraska game on in the background this weekend when I was doing work around the house because, Deuce goes to Nebraska. But I will fully admit that I did not watch more than 2 or 3 minutes combined, just glancing up at the TV. I don't know anything about the club, the kids, or this coach. I know the name. I'd heard it before, but I know nothing. I've seen it when you look at the story and it's got a picture of him, I can see him. I say, oh, yeah, I know who. I mean, if you had just had who is this, I wouldn't know, but I'd go, I've seen that face before. I don't know. I kind of like it, actually. I don't know why I do. Because normally, there would be other times I'd react with, maybe you want to look in the mirror, dude. And it can't be all that. But he's cocking off pretty good. Like, I got 500 wins. I got more energy than anybody on the club. He's obviously pretty frustrated with this team.
I have experienced it coaching hockey before that it's very frustrating when you care more about the team's performance than the players do. And once you get to that point, it's hard to just get players to turn it on and care. They either do, they don't. They either want to put in the work or they don't. And that can be challenging as a coach. You can get very frustrated with that.
Yeah.
But calling them out publicly, I don't think it's going to help them out.
Probably not, but well, you get frustrated after a while.
Yeah.
It's after a while you feel like you just got to say something. Apparently it was going in one ear and out the other. A tough story out of the National Football League. Did you see this, Timmy? Do you remember Frank Wycheck? Tight end?
Yes.
Frank Wycheck, the NFL tight end, best known for throwing the lateral that started the Music City Miracle and launched the Tennessee Titans' run to the franchise's lone big game appearance as stage 3 chronic traumatic encephalopathy when he died on December 9th, 2023. And I'd forgotten that he had passed away, but it was he died at age 52 after apparently hitting his head in a fall at home. He had made clear his wishes to work with experts for CTE research and ongoing brain surgery. Wycheck's family said in a statement they are grateful for this diagnosis, which they believe further highlights the concerns around CTE and contact sports like football. Deanna Wycheck Szabo, I'm assuming it must be his widow, but I don't know that. It doesn't say anywhere in the story, unless I'm just missing it. She said, this is a daughter. We witnessed our father becoming increasingly isolated and experiencing drastic mood swings. He became more impulsive and often inconsistent, undependable. Now, in hindsight, I understand that he was suffering from the symptoms of CTE due to the repeated trauma his brain and body endured over 11 seasons in the NFL. My dad explained that it felt like his brain had a thick brick wall inside that stopped his will to follow through with anything, no matter what it was or who was involved. Regardless of his CTE symptoms, I will always believe that God intervened to allow him the opportunity to enjoy our weddings, his grandkids, and all the other things he truly wanted to be a part of before he left us. And I don't know how many players are wearing them. You see that goofy-looking helmet some of these players are wearing? Looks like a big pillow on their head. Have you seen it in the NFL?
Yes.
And there's a name for that helmet. I don't know what they call it. A goofy-looking helmet, I guess is the name of it. And it looks weird. And it does look like you almost look, to me, it kind of looks like you almost got like a pillow on your head or something, the way it's shaped. And it's almost like your Macy's Day balloon float of some sort. And I thought I read where they feel as though, this is what they claim, it's
called Guardian Cap.
Guardian Cap, that it lessens the blow by like 15%, 10 to 15% than would if you were just wearing a normal helmet. To me, that's enough to wear one. I don't see a lot of players wearing them. I wonder how many do. It seems like there's one or two players on each team. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, maybe 60, 70 guys wearing them. I don't know. I don't know why you wouldn't, unless, because I mean, I've not read up on it enough to know if it's heavier. It looks a bit cumbersome, but man, if it can diminish the severity of a blow by like 15%, I don't know, is that enough? I'd do it, I think. You would.
I think a lot of these young, these are very young, a lot of young men that think they're invincible.
Yeah, that's true. That's probably a lot of
think they're Superman out there.
And it does, just because we're not used to it, it's kind of goofy looking. You know, it's kind of odd. It's kind of an odd look.
They want to look cool.
Yeah, but if everybody was wearing them, then I guess it wouldn't be an odd look. It would look completely normal. Well, it's still like when they show the old, even just from back in the 70s and even 80s and 90s, when they show the old highlights, the shoulder pads they were wearing went almost to the top of the guy's helmet.
They were monstrous.
They just had these monstrous shoulder pads on. And through the technology, they've been able to make them where they're, I don't know, they almost look like they're not wearing shoulder pads at all.
Mm-hmm.
But they must still be effective. But
I wonder how the quarterbacks threw in those things back in the day.
I don't know. And then I remember, and I think I've told this story before, and maybe older football fans remember, you know, back when Houston, the Oilers were making a run at Pittsburgh and lost in those back-to-back AFC championship games, the quarterback was a kid named Dan Pastorini. And I remember for the AFC championship game, he was wearing a flak jacket. So I think they just went to like an outdoor store, maybe they went to the cop shop and said, "Hey, do you got a flak jacket?" Maybe they went to the local National Guard and said, "We need a flak jacket so he can protect his ribs." So then you add the flak jacket to the shoulder pads. I don't know how these guys threw the ball at all, so you're absolutely right.
By the way, Packers breaking news, not surprising news, but breaking news is Matt LaFleur says that Jordan Love, a full participant in practice today.
Very good.
He'll be ready to go.
He will be ready to go. Let's do this. Let's pause. When we return, the legendary Mark Rosen will join us, and then Deuce at 2:30 for Spread Swing here on The Fan.